Now we come to the body-mind consciousness equation. Very important concept to understand. Okay, so the reason why we say body, mind, and consciousness equation is to first of all clearly understand that these three things are independent entities. All the confusion takes place at a human level because we bundle these things as one unit, which is where the problem comes. Body is gross, mind is subtle, consciousness is subtlest. They are bundled in one unit, but they are absolutely distinct from each other. I mentioned to you even on the first day. Let's understand how different they are. And to understand this, we use this formula called the two I's. So every one of us has got two identities. The first identity is called the small I. You see on the left side, small I. The small I is consisting of the body, mind. When I say body, please always include the brain also in it. So body plus brain, mind distinct from the brain. A lot of people just mix these two things, interchange mind for brain. No, brain is solid, it's gross, mind is subtle. You cannot interchange these two words. Some of the greatest philosophers I hear, they just keep interchanging these two, and therefore there's a lot of confusion. Where is this memory? How do we remember things? Where is the storage taking place of all the things that we do? So there is a capacity for the brain to storage a lot of things. But humongously big is the storage capacity of the mind, which can store every interaction that we do. So at the subtle level, we have a mind which has all those components that I talked a little while earlier, and memory is one of them as well at the psychological level. And if you remember, I said human beings are made up of two things. One, it is the physical level, and the second is the psychological realm. And they go parallel, though they are distinct from each other. That's why they are parallel. Now, small I, you must understand, consists of body, brain, plus the mind. We call that ahankara. That is an identification that you have always been doing because you only have understood your body and mind. To some extent, mind. Body to a very large extent through medical science. But you don't know much about mind as well. You just say, I have a mind. What does it do? How does it work? Nobody has cared to understand because it is subtle. You cannot do experimentation on mind. It's not an object which you can, dissect and understand it. And each mind is different from another person's mind because of the configurations that the mind has in it. The ingredients, they differ from each one another completely. There may be some traces of similarities, but they are completely different in terms of configuration. So our identification all the while from young is only to the body, essentially body, not even so much to the mind. But we keep on referring to the mind as my mind has trouble and my mind said this and all that stuff, even though we haven't even experienced mind or understood mind from its real perspective. Then we have this another section called the big I. The big I is the consciousness. Now, how does this body-mind equation really work? On the left side, you have the small I, ahankara. Right side is the big I, which we call as the Satchit Chitta Ananda, which is the consciousness. The consciousness's job? No. By nature. We can't use the word job because it's not in a functional state at all. It is not performing any action. It is just there. So we have to understand consciousness by its nature. By nature, consciousness is awareness. It is awareness itself. It's the awareness principle. So, nature. The nature of sun is to provide light and energy, heat energy. It's not the description of sun. Sun is sun. You can't describe sun by saying it gives you light. Light is its nature. That's all it can do. Similarly, consciousness basically is the principle called awareness principle. So wherever there is consciousness, there will be awareness. Automatically, it doesn't have to do anything. Just like if there is sun, there will be light, there will be heat. So consciousness is there means awareness automatic. It is not concerned whether there is a body, mind, sun, moon, nothing. It doesn't bother about it. It is awareness principle. So its functionality automatically from its nature is revelation. It keeps on revealing everything that is there, not just here, entire universe and beyond the universe. Everything is revealed only by its presence. It is not revealing, it is revelation. It is the awareness principle, because of which we become aware. And how does that happen? So, because it is all the time revealing, its principle is awareness, we call it is illuminating. Awareness means knowledge. Knowledge means illumination. In ignorance is not illumination. Knowledge is illumination. So we say consciousness illumines. It's not that it is throwing the light. It's just creating the awareness all the time. So this awareness which it creates is captured by this mind, which is part of your body-mind equation. Where is it captured? It is captured in the intellect portion of the mind. And mind has the intellect in it. If the mind does not have the intellect in it, or for some reason, the intellect portion of the mind is covered by the upadhis, which I talked about last time. Upadhis means the limiting conditions, adjuncts. If the intellect portion of the mind is covered, then the consciousness, which is all the time revealing, will not become, we will not become aware of it. Even though consciousness is constantly shown. But the ability to absorb, which only the mind has, not the physical body, mind alone has that ability to absorb this reflection or the illumination or the awareness that the consciousness causes in its presence. So if you don't have a mind, then you cannot become aware of anything. So the simple understanding could be that a piece of wood which is lying down does not have a mind, is it? Because it is not becoming aware of anything, right? It's just lying there all the time. So does it have the awareness? It doesn't have. So shall we say it does not have the mind? Or mind-like principle? The answer is there is a mind-like principle in it, but it is made to be just an object of knowledge, not necessary that it should be animating. And because of that, it is essentially made of gross object totally. There's a very small element of subtlety in it, which is not good enough for it to animate by itself. Very, very small portion. And therefore, you see the wood just lying just like that, without it being able to animate. So the awareness which is created by the consciousness is not getting captured by the wood. Whereas you, I, the animals, we all have the subtle mind of different variations in terms of its power to absorb. Therefore, we do much better things than an animal and a lot of different things compared to a bird, or for that matter, a plant. So now you try to understand consciousness is distinctly there inside the frame of body, and it's constantly showing you everything in this world. But because the mind is a finite part, it can only understand limited things that the consciousness is showing you. How do we understand that? Right now, you're only understanding what I am talking. You cannot understand what the neighbor is talking to you or what the neighbors are discussing, because mind is limited. It's finite object. Therefore, it will only be able to understand what is absorbed by the mind, and the mind being finite and at a particular position, it can only understand what is being reflected to it. So if the mind was not there, you will not become aware at all. Now comes the body. Now, this principle of consciousness or awareness principle, the other nature of this principle is making awareness available to a part called mind with an intellect. Therefore, it becomes conscious. Mind without this reflection is an unconscious object only. It's a matter principle. It also cannot animate. It cannot think unless this reflection comes from the consciousness, which by itself is distinct, has got nothing to do with this mind. So we call this as a one-way relationship, where the mind is eager to take the awareness from the consciousness, while consciousness is unconcerned about the presence or absence of the world itself. It's not concerned. It's always going to be there. If world comes, and if you have a mind-like principle, you will be able to absorb and become aware. But by itself, it's just there. So now you understand consciousness is caused by this original consciousness through the reflection, and therefore the mind which is acting now for you as a conscious mind is only having a reflected consciousness. It is not the original consciousness. Original consciousness is extraordinarily powerful. It's infinite. So the reflection, when it comes to the mind becomes conscious. A conscious mind is called the individual soul. The conscious mind is called the individual soul. The individual soul also has the physiological ability of the mind, which then is able to make this body function. Because the mind is associated with the body, the reflection which mind receives from the consciousness is then again reflected by the mind to the body. Because the mind is like the mirror. So when mind receives the reflection from the consciousness, it automatically will reflect it. To where? To anything that is connected with the mind. So who is connected with the mind? The body is connected. Therefore, the body becomes conscious. So if you pinch your finger at this point in time, you can feel the pain at the finger because there is consciousness over there. And that consciousness has been supplied by this mind through its reflection, because the mind itself is a reflecting medium or a mirror, and it goes to the body. Now, a question you should ask, is the body a reflecting medium? And the answer to that question is absolutely yes. So, if you see a piece of wood lying there, you are able to see that piece of wood because the consciousness has hit that particular wood and the wood has reflected itself to you, which is what the retina is capturing. And then you say, oh, there is something called, oh, there is an object in front of me. And that object has been given a name as the piece of wood. So this tells you that every object of this world, everything that you see in this world is a reflecting medium. But all of them do not have the mind-like part which has the capability to make that reflecting medium, the gross medium, to animate. So for animation, you require mind with the intellect. Otherwise, the gross body object will get reflected automatically and you can see everything in this world. Now the concept about incidental reality and intrinsic reality. Very important to understand. Incidental means coming and going. Intrinsic, all the time present. The body, is it incidental or intrinsic? Clearly, the body is acquired by us, stays with us for a few years, and it's gone. The mind is also incidental because at some stage, this mind will also be gone. Though between body and mind, the longevity is much greater for mind compared to the body. So the first thing that goes is the body, and then the mind continues to acquire new body for purposes that we will explain later. Body is acquired. Whatever is acquired has to go at some stage. Therefore, it becomes incidental. Let me explain to you this with a simple analogy. The intrinsic reality is that which is always there. It can never be separated from the substance that has this intrinsic reality. So let's take some water in a bowl. Obviously, the water is at a room temperature at this time. And then we put it on a stove to heat it. The water starts to boil. So it has changed from its original temperature into now a hot water. After some time, you just put the stove off. And in a few minutes' time, this water will go back to its original temperature, which is its intrinsic nature. The incidental nature was that it became hot because of the application of heat to it. So, incidental nature will go as soon as the conditions are gone. Body will be gone as soon as the conditions are gone. Therefore, it is incidental in nature. Whereas heat, the nature of fire is heat. You can never separate heat from fire. That is its intrinsic reality. So now coming back to this situation here, consciousness, which is part of your body-mind consciousness equation, because without consciousness, you can do nothing in this world. Consciousness is intrinsic reality. Body-mind is incidental reality. You don't acquire consciousness. It's not possible to acquire. It's always there. So what will you acquire? There's nothing to acquire. It's there. Body mind is acquired by you. So therefore, I on the top has got an acquired principle called body and mind and an intrinsic principle called the consciousness. So if you say I am, that I am has two components, the consciousness component and the incidental component called the body and mind, without which you don't become a totality. The I is not complete. But you must understand the difference between the big I, which is going to be there even after this body mind has gone. We're learning all these things. Obviously, there must be a reason. That's where I'm taking you to. We want to move away from this incidental nature, incidental reality of body and mind, and move to the intrinsic reality, which is really our true self. Now there is a false self and there is a real self. The false self will go, therefore we don't want to be associated with the false self. We want to be associated with the eternal self that we are. That is where I want you all to move. By the end of our session, everyone should have moved away from body mind to this consciousness. Obviously, everyone is looking for an answer. Why? Why should I move? So what it is intrinsic? So what it is incidental? I'm making use of my body and mind today in the functional world. I'm not making use of my consciousness to work. So why should I move? So you should get an answer to that question. Why this movement? And to understand this movement is essential. You require a knowledge. That knowledge is Vedantam. That is the knowledge of Vedantam. If you don't have that knowledge, this movement will not happen.